We now call this meeting to order. Before we start and we have the roll call, I would like to ask for everybody to hold a minute of silence, a second of silence, to remember all of the families that we lost during 9/11. Thank you. We now proceed to the roll call.
Mayor De La Isla?
Here.
Commissioner Rippon?
Here.
Cook?
Here.
Archer?
Here.
Councilmember Hiller?
Here.
Clear?
Here.
Ortiz? Emerson?
Here.
Padilla?
Here.
Jensen?
Present.
Mays?
Here.
Cohen?
Here.
Lesser?
Here.
We now move on to the action items. Action item A, approval of the May 8 meetings, minutes. Sorry, I took your job from you.
A is approval of the May 8, 2019 JEDO Board meeting minutes.
We have a motion for approval by Councilmember Lesser.
Second.
We have a second first recognized for Commissioner Cook. Are there questions or comments with regards to the minutes of the last meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We now move on to item B, if the clerk would read.
B is approval of the JEDO 2018 Independent Auditors Report.
If you could please come up. Ms. Jessica Lamandola.
For many of you, this is 2 nights in a row, so thanks for having me again. So I'm Jessica Lamandola. I'm the City of Topeka's Director of Administrative and Financial Services, and then I'm also the current treasurer of the JEDO Finance Committee, because it is an odd year. Odd year meaning the date, not that it's odd that I'm here. Tonight you are being asked to approve JEDO's 2018 fiscal audit. Most importantly, I think, is that the audit resulted in an unqualified opinion, meaning a clean audit. So I think that's obviously very important. I believe all of you have access to the report. So just to give you a brief overview, as has appeared on prior balance sheet statements, there is a large receivable of about $2.3 million for the City of Topeka and about $1.38 million for the Shawnee County. This just reflects the sales tax distribution that JEDO received within the first 90 days of the following year, but it's accredited back to 2018. And then you'll see the corresponding distribution on the second portion of your balance sheet for the actual distribution. So the JEDO's not keeping that money, we distribute it, it's just a timing issue. On the next page, so the statement of activities, JEDO received in total about $21.6 million in total revenue and paid out approximately $2.2 million. So there are two items that stand out that are a bit newer that you might have noticed. About $4.5 million shows up as a revenue labeled return of funds, and there's a corresponding expense of the same amount. So that is just related to the East Topeka Learning Center project. And then there's another item a little bit further down under expenses in the adjustments column, and it's labeled transfer of property held for development, and that is also related to the same project. But the ownership had to change in order to benefit from the tax credits. So outside of that, it was a pretty straightforward year. I can now ask Brenda Flanagan, who's a partner with Summers, Spencer and Company, who is the auditing firm that was engaged for the 2018 audit, and she can go over more specifics on the function of the audit. I'm happy to take any questions on it, but also here.
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I'm not sure if this is for you or whomever. And I'm not sure if I'm reading this correctly. That's why I'm asking this question. So in the independent auditor's report, and it's the required supplementary information, and it said there's something that was omitted, and it really doesn't have to be.
The management, the management letter. So,
Okay, what does that mean?
So there's a variety, and okay. The city's audit, the county's audit, we have it. We're much larger organizations that tend to have a little more complexity, and so we provide additional insight into operations. I can only assume that with the JEDO audit, that because of the size and just overall operations, it's a little less complex. But in terms of the actual auditing function, I'll let Brenda answer it.
So does it take away from the audit, or does it do anything?
It is
with the
still an
audit?
unqualified audit opinion, so it is a clean opinion.
Okay, and then it said, the report dated July 31st, 19, about the internal control over financial reporting. Does that mean it's a good thing or bad thing?
Councilwoman, I'm gonna hand it over to
Okay.
Brenda.
Did you get my question?
I did.
Okay, good.
yes. Thank you. As Jessica mentioned, I'm Brenda Flanagan. I'm a partner with Summers, Spencer and Company. We performed the audit this year. With respect to your question, the first one had to do with what's called required supplementary information for a governmental entity, and it's specifically management's discussion and analysis. So if you looked at like the City of Topeka or Shawnee County's audit, you would see prefacing the financial statements more detail as to maybe a 3-year analysis and some ratios and that type of thing. For this organization, it wasn't considered to be of that much use to understanding the financial statements. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the financial statements, it's just some information that maybe wouldn't contribute to the understanding.
Okay.
With respect to in the auditor's report where it refers to the report on internal control, if you go back to the very last 2 pages of the packet, I believe, there is a separate report in here that's the auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance, and this is what was being referred to in the previous report.
That's not a real.
So we conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards. And because we conducted it in accordance with government auditing standards, you get this little extra report in the back that's over internal control and compliance. And as a result of that, of course, the audit was not conducted for expressing an opinion on internal control, but in the course of planning our audit and performing our audit, nothing rose to the level that needs to be reported to you. Those are called material weaknesses, and none were identified during the audit. And then the second part of that second report in the back is over compliance. And as part of a governmental audit, we have to look at compliance with grants, agreements, anything that would have an impact on the financial statements, a significant impact, and we did not find any non-compliance.
It just sounded negative to me, so I
Yeah.
want to make sure. Thank you.
Yes.
Additional questions for either Ms. Flanagan or Ms. Lamondola? Councilwoman Hiller.
I don't really have a question, but I have a comment if this is the appropriate time. If I've got it right, 2018 was our first full fiscal year of the transition into the Greater Topeka Partnership and all of the changes in accounting that went with that. And so having an unqualified audit is wonderful. I know that it's been a lot of work for the accounting staff. I don't know if you were asked to look at this audit in the context of the Greater Topeka Partnership audit?
No.
Or not?
No.
So only this one?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Well, so I'm glad this one came out well, because I appreciate how much effort it's been for the staff to make that transition. So thank you and kudos to whoever
Yes.
should get those.
If there's no other comments, what's the pleasure of the body?
Mayor, motion to approve the,
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Cook. Do we have a second? Second by the Deputy Mayor. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We now move on to item C in the agenda, if the clerk would read.
C is approval of the Project Purple Incentive Agreement.
Barbara Stapleton.
Thank you. The screen is locked.
Uh-oh. Technical issues, please pause.
Thank you. stay up. Okay, come on. Thank you. All right. All right, Project Purple. Thank you. At the May 8th JEDO meeting, the approval of Project Purple's funding occurred with a total approved incentive of $1,490,000 based upon their capital investment of $9 million and their addition of 222 jobs over the next 5 years with an average wage of $52,000 annually plus benefits. This investment will result in a one-time economic impact of $12.4 million from the capital investment and an economic impact of $650 million over 10 years from the added jobs for a total economic impact of $662 million to our community. All these incentives are performance-based. All the incentives that we always present to you are performance-based. They'll be paid out as earned. With your approval of the contract agreement in your packet this evening, we are excited to announce that Project Purple is Advisors Excel. I'd like to invite David Callanan, co-founder of Advisors Excel, to address and share comments related to the project and their growth and success in our community. Thank you. David?
Well, thank you. I did not pick the color purple. I'm a KU fan, and I want to be clear about that to get started. That's very important for me to be stated. Amy Klotz picked the color purple, and she is a K-State fan. I did not know that. But that being said, I want to first thank the group for believing in what we do at our company. It means so much to Cody and I and our entire team of 600 people that we have our community leaders believe in what we're doing. Second, I want to give you my word. This will be a good investment in our community. It will continue the progress that we've made over the last 15 years to create a company in Topeka that helps individuals grow, our clients grow, and the impact we can have in Topeka grow, which is what we're all about at our company. You know, as we've grown, I will say this, we've added 2 major core divisions over the last handful of years. Number one is our AE Wealth Management Division. I'll talk a little bit about that, along with an enormous investment in technology. As we've done that, it's been important to really find world-class talent, and it's got harder and harder. But we've really worked hard to recruit, and not only are we recruiting locally and doing our best in that, but we've attracted people from the Boston area, we've attracted people from Minneapolis, we've attracted people from St. Louis, we've attracted people from San Diego, and we have a lot of new employees coming from Kansas City. All that being said, your commitment to us allows us to continue to not only be able to grow our business, but attract great people to our community from other communities. I'll also go on to let you know just a little bit about the company for those that maybe aren't as familiar. We are the largest insurance distribution company in the entire country. And one thing that's really cool is we've done that in partnership with a lot of great insurance companies. But Cody and I and our entire team are proud to also say that we've done a lot of that in partnership with locally operated security benefit. And many of the carriers we partner with also partner with their operational platform, SE2. So as you think about your investment into Advisors Excel, it's not only into this company, but it also aligns amazingly with another local insurance company and another local operational platform as we all 3 grow together. Would also make mention that we are the 2nd fastest growing RIA in America, and we're recognized that last year, and we anticipate being one of the top 3 fastest growing RIAs in America. For those that aren't maybe familiar with the terminology, got to be careful with initials. It's a registered investment advisor. So really, if you think about that, that's the investment world coming big time to the city of Topeka in partnership with our firm. We also maybe are even more proud of the impact that we are only the 2nd company in the state of Kansas to be certified as the best places to work by the Best Places to Work organization. We were certified that in 2017. 18, and we haven't publicly released, but we got our email that we will be certified again in 2019. As we said, this isn't only about creating a company that generates money, but it's about creating a transformational company that grows our staff and grows our impact in the community. But hopefully, more than anything, you realize that Cody, myself, and a huge portion of our 600-person team are homegrown. Cody and I both graduated from Washburn University, and our passion deeply resides in not only how we can grow the business, but how we can change and transform this community as a business partner with not only local charities, but local political partners. And really, it takes a full team with the idea of bringing corporate, political, and charitable all together to make a huge impact. And for us, that is absolutely key for what we do. We have a goal to make Topeka the best community it can possibly be, and we know that it is our responsibility as a company to be an absolute leader in that approach. Your investment will help us grow. As you saw with the commitment, we are committed to growing the community. Some of you may know, some of you may not. We also purchased Gage Center. We will be completely overhauling that, and that will not be identifiable versus what it looks like today when we're finished. For those of you who remember the current facility we are in, it does not look like what it looked like before. This will be the exact same facelift, but we're really excited that that is kind of a centerpiece in a local housing community all the way around there, where we think that can be a featured aspect of our community and continue to create growth. But this was about jobs. And I will commit to you that we will create over 200 jobs in the next 3 to 5 years. If you wonder, is that real? This year alone, we've already hired 100 employees at Advisors Excel, with 50 of those being net new jobs in our community. We are committed to growth in Topeka. So I want to thank you for your support, and thank you for all you do on a daily basis.
Do we have any? Deputy Mayor?
I want to thank you. Every time I turn around, Advisors Excel is doing something great in the community. And you are a pillar of this community. And I'm glad you support all our, charities. And I'm glad you're in Topeka.
Thank you.
Additional comments or questions for David? Councilman Padilla?
I'm going to echo those same comments. You know, when we make our trips to these other cities, Chattanooga, and then we're coming up to Montgomery, it's very noticeable that the success that the city has is often because of the great partnerships they have with corporate citizens in that community. And I think it's important for us to realize that they're an integral part of everything that we do, and having companies like yourself, Advisors Excels, and others, they really do support the efforts that the governing body tries to bring to the community. But without that commitment, I think it would be very difficult. So again, like the deputy mayor, I thank you for all your generosity and the willingness to support in a variety of areas of Topeka. Thank you.
Thank you.
David, I want to say that when Rodrigo Dorador was looking for stories, for those of you that don't know, as Momentum 22 has been growing, we've been looking for stories to share in our city. And we connected Rodrigo Dorador with Mr. Callanan. And Rodrigo came back extremely inspired. Young man from Harvard that has met people from all around and is, exposed to the world's leaders. And he said, David Callanan was extremely inspiring. Not only was I inspired by his commitment to the community, but the love that he demonstrates and when he speaks about the talent pool in Topeka and their desire to grow homegrown talent, because we have such great people here, and the work ethic that you don't find in many places, it is easy to see why they want to stay in this community. He made me want to stay here. So I want to say thank you for that, for being not only an excellent steward of this community, but also of the people that are here in the city. So additional comments or questions, or is there the pleasure of the body to make a motion? We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second? Second. Do we have additional comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
At this point in time, as we have been trained by Mr. Pervarnik, we are going to take a 5-minute recess to do a small press conference outside and to take a fabulous picture with our team. No forgiveness. We now reconvene the meeting. We move on to item B, if the clerk would read.
D is approval of Project Lightning incentive funding.
Molly?
Hello. Happy to be here and finally have this item on the agenda. I know there are a lot of you around this table and throughout this room that have heard us talk about this project for quite some time, and we've been working on it for over a year, and we are now at the point that I am proud to announce that Project Lightning has chosen to move forward with due diligence and plans to build a new facility in Topeka and Shawnee County. And approval of this incentive package is the first step in that process. So we will not be announcing the company tonight, but we are working diligently with them to get to that point and bring a contract back before you and the company representatives as well. So I'll go over some of the specs here. We are looking at 1.8 million square feet, an investment of $235 million, 300 new jobs, an average wage of $34,000. That is what the incentive is based on. This company has aggressive benefits and an aggressive incentive package that, when that is taken into account, the wages end up being just under $38,000. We are offering an incentive package that includes 236 acres in Konza Fire Commerce Park. That is all the remaining land between Highway 75 and the Mars property. We are also offering a training grant that totals up to $150,000, employment incentives totaling $900,000, a broker commission of $420,000, investment incentive for their capital investment of $300,000, and an infrastructure incentive in the amount of $100,000, and that totals $1.45 million in incentives. So when you total that together with the broker commission, it's a total commitment of $1,870,000. Let me tell you a little bit about how that equates when you look at the impact. So again, 300 jobs, $235 million in capital investment, the total payroll being just over $10 million per year, for an economic impact of just over $630 million. The return on the investment in this scenario for incentives is 74%. So with that, I would stand for any questions, and we will be looking to seek a motion for approval of the incentive package before you.
Any questions for Molly?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Archer. Second. We have a second by Councilman Emerson. Additional comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, we proceed with a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
We now move on to item E, if the clerk would read.
Approval of Project K incentive funding.
Good evening. So this is Project September. This evening I have Project K, which is an existing animal health manufacturing company looking to expand in our community. They'll be investing $1.1 million in plant and distribution center additions and improvement expenditures. And over the next 5 years, they'll also be adding up to 4 new jobs with an average wage of $52,000 annually plus benefits. We're proposing up to $25,000 in incentives, and all incentives are performance-based to be paid out as earned. With your approval of the funding this evening, the details of the agreement will be outlined via formal contract and presented for your approval at a future meeting.
Questions for Ms. Stapleton? There's no questions. What's the pleasure of the body?
Move to approve.
We have a motion for approval by Chair Archer. We have a second by Councilman Lesser. Additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Johnny County Topeka's hopping tonight. Item F, if the clerk would read.
F is approval of reallocation of Mars incentive funds originally allocated for construction of a firehouse and authorizing JEDO Chair to execute amendment to original agreement dated July 27, 2011.
This item has been placed on our agenda not because it was an item that we are prepared to discuss this evening. It was because, based on the guidance that we received in the last meeting, we were to evaluate the situation and then come back to have discussion. At this point in time, the city of Topeka is not in the position to have that discussion, so we're respectfully requesting that we move this item forward till we're able to do so.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. Any other comments or questions on this item? Deputy Mayor.
You say to move forward until the next meeting, next year?
At this point in time, we don't have a specific date. What we would like to do is to allow staff to work with the council so that we could come prepared with the appropriate information.
But we don't know when.
Correct, not yet.
Okay.
We do have one person before we proceed with the voting signed up to speak on this item, and it's Ms. Carol Marple. I do not see Ms. Marple. Okay, additional questions on the item? All those in favor of postponing, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We now move on to the non-action items. Item A, if the clerk would read.
A is Go Topeka's quarterly report.
Good evening, governing body. Just a couple of things real quick. One is, it was a good night earlier. I would say it was a trifecta, but I'm glad it's not, because you know that in economic development, there's business retention, there's expansion, and there's attraction. Tonight, Barbara presented a couple of projects that were expansions, which is awesome. I think one of the things that's cool is that one of them was in animal health, the other one was in financial services. And then Molly talk to you about an attraction project. The reason it's not a trifecta and the reason I'm glad is because retention means save. We don't have a retention and we don't want to have a retention because we're not in the business right now of having to save any jobs. I want to be concise, and the team is going to be concise too. I will tell you this, we would love to talk to you guys for an hour, hour and a half, but I know that you wouldn't love us at the end, so we're going to be quick. I just want to remind you that I send you all a monthly management report. I beg you to read it, and then we send a quarterly JEDO report as well. You have June's in your packet, and you'll be receiving the latest quarter very soon at the beginning of October. I do want to just mention two things, though. Councilman Emerson and I were meeting recently, and I love it because he said, quote, "You guys are on a roll." And I corrected him. I don't usually try to correct my elected leaders, but I said, first of all, let me say this. It's not you, it's us, it's we, and we are a big team. So that's my first challenge, is that we're a team, and he agreed. And I said, and the second challenge is that I would disagree and say that we're not on a roll. A roll suggests that we've had a lucky streak. I mean, a roll is kind of a dice game, right? And so we're really not on a lucky streak. This has taken, where we are right now has taken years and years of hard work, of being strategic, and of planning. And I use plug and play as an example. I mean, I have people call me all the time and say, how in the heck did you guys get so lucky to get plug and play? It wasn't luck. I mean, if you go back, we started talking about building an entrepreneurial ecosystem. I had Dr. Kevin Hahn and I had Dwayne Cantrell and I had folks like that coming and saying, we've got to change the way we play this game. And then we created an innovation advisory board, and we spent a year and a half doing research, and then we hired Katrin Bridges, Russ Holt's house, now it's Bridges, and we put this innovation advisory board together. David Callanan, who was just at the podium, is one of the innovation advisory board members. And part of that process, as Security Benefits said, you know what, we should go to Silicon Valley and visit with Plug and Play so that we can study best practices. And when they got there, Silicon Valley and Plug and Play said, you know what, we're looking for an animal health and ag tech, ag science vertical. And look who's in front of us, Topeka, Kansas, because guess what, you're right smack dab into that geography for us. And so none of that's luck. That's planning, that's work, that's strategy. Then it's the implementation of the strategy. It's actually, they were there in front of Plug and Play in Silicon Valley. So I'm excited. I will say this. I believe that our recent success is our new norm. I don't think we're on a roll. I think it's our new norm, and I think it's what we should expect going forward for a long time. And then last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Molly is, Commissioner Archer, I want to thank you. This is your last JEDO meeting. Quit smiling so much. I've been through 16 or 17 of these, and I just want to publicly acknowledge the work that you've done, both on JEDO, with the commission, with the city. I mean, there are things all over this community that have your stamp of approval on them, and I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being a mentor to me, being a partner to us. Every time we called, you took our call. You didn't always agree with us, and that's healthy. And but I just want to thank you, and from the bottom of my heart, just tell you how much I appreciate how much you care about this community, especially about economic development. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate the kind words. You know, I think there are 3 times in someone's life that you're really loved. Number 1, on your honeymoon. I hope you are, anyway. Number 2, when you retire, and then number 3, when you die. I'm glad I'm a number 2 at this point. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been an honor to serve.
Okay, as Matt said, I'll be brief. I just have one slide to talk about new business attraction. Obviously, there's a lot of information in your quarterly report, so I won't reiterate that. But since that report has come out, we've been working fast and furious with Project Lightning, so that's been consuming a lot of my time. And luckily, we have Rhiannon Friedman on our staff who has been fielding the RFPs that have been coming in at lightning speed as well. So we, year-to-date, have 15, actually make that 16, because about 2 hours ago, she got another one, 16 new projects year-to-date, and last year we finished out the year with 17. So we're on pace to beat last year's number of new business projects. Because of the news about Project Lightning, we have already started to shift our marketing focus to different types of emerging technologies and more of the professional financial services, ag tech, bioscience industries, and working to be more proactive about marketing to those types of companies. We're working on strategic planning for 2020 as well, and making sure that our strategic plan within Go Topeka aligns with the other strategic plans within the Greater Topeka Partnership and is complementary and addresses all of the pieces of Momentum 2022 as well. We are also finishing up an incentive guidelines review, and we will be posting an exhausting incentives guideline on our website when that's all finished, that anybody can use and share and use as a resource as they're looking at locating in Topeka and Shawnee County. And with that, that's all I have for new business before I pass it over to Barbara. Any questions?
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening again. Briefly, for the first part, with business retention and expansion, our existing businesses are doing well and very much in growth mode in multiple sectors, as indicated with our announcement with both Advisors Excel and Project K that we introduced earlier. We currently have 17 potential existing business projects all along the pipeline, with 6 projects added just in 2019 and 3 just in the last month. Projects range from capital expenditures and job growth, like we saw this evening, to support with zoning questions and other supports that we can help with our existing businesses. Top City Teachers is one of the programs that we also offer, and it just was wrapped up earlier this month. We do programming in the months of August and September for the fall semester. 4 districts participated this year. Between 2 sessions and ultimately other programming that we did, we had 250 attendees over the course of several different things. That includes first year and new district staff, as well as student teachers. And Family Service and Guidance helped sponsor the program this year as they align their mental health programming that they do with the districts too, to help support the teachers and help to support the students that they serve. We're also very excited this evening to show you a sneak peek at our talent recruitment collateral that we're developing for recruiters and HR professionals to support them in their attraction and retention efforts. The mayor mentioned earlier, it is all about developing homegrown talent, and we are doing a combination of things that way. It leads us to sharing a talent initiative that we've been working on to support attraction, retention, and population growth efforts. So, I'll mention this first in giving you an idea. We're excited to share kind of that information as we work to create what came out of the board strategic plan. We were challenged to develop an aggressive outside-the-box talent initiative. As we worked to create it, we developed the program and received input from community and board members. You'll remember in Momentum 2022 in the strategic plan, it indicated at the time that those workers in the county that made over 40,000, 40% resided outside the county. We want to change that. This initiative I'll show you shortly is leading edge. It is not bleeding edge in terms of how we can shift that migration, not only to grow population, but attract and retain future growth in our community. There are two key programs we followed as we align the efforts to create this proposed initiative. And the first one you'll see on your screen now is the state of Vermont. They kicked off their remote worker grant program in January. They budgeted funds to support 100 grants for the first 3 years and 20 additional workers each year from then on. Those recipients can receive up to $5,000 over a year or 2 years, so $10,000 in total at the most, and then they're chosen on a first-come, first-served basis. These grants can be used to cover moving, living, and working expenses, including relocation, commuter software, and hardware, as well as internet and co-working space. So far, the state of Vermont has had 56 workers apply since January. That has totaled 140 new residents, including families, to their state, and most of them are under the age of 40. The average age is actually 38. The state has paid out approximately $200,000 of the $500,000 that the legislature approved for the program. And one participant shared he's been living in cities for the last decade. He found the anonymity, I don't have a correction for that, anonymity oppressive, and he was ready to get back to intentional community, which is something that I think we all know, looking at your faces. We experience intentional community in Topeka. The city of Tulsa is the next one that we looked at. And they launched Tulsa Remote in November with the George Kaiser Family Foundation. Their intent was to generate publicity for the city, and they thought they might get 1,000 applications, which they did in the first day. They heard from over 200 countries and all 50 states until they capped the number of applicants at 10,000. They selected 100 people for their first cohort, and participants will come from 20 different states and range from recent college grads to retirees, some married, some single, and some with children. The common denominator is that they're all highly talented and they have a desire to make an impact in whatever community they become a part of. And that's key. They want to become a part of the community they go to. Community building support is the number one reason why people applied. Some of the insights that they've noted is that it's not just about the incentive money for those participants, but it removes a barrier that may seal the commitment to move. And as we've continued to elevate things in our community, it's a desirable community to want to come to. So it helps. That real story is the community's authentic story of accessibility and welcoming the residents to the community and the value proposition that they offer to them. These examples are both remote worker incentives, so I've shared that with you. Encouraging someone who works remotely to select a state or city to live in. Ours is different in that we will partner with local employers to incentivize employees to live and work in Topeka. The timing is perfect to be moving forward with this now, as we have the opportunity for a generally controlled release of the program to test the appetite of the community and incorporate it in our budget later this year. Eligibility requirements are fairly simple, and the green does not show up well at all. Now we know. Participants will be selected by their employer, as it is an employer participation matching funds program. Participants will either purchase a home and receive up to $15,000 in incentives, or rent and receive up to $10,000 in incentives within Shawnee County within the year of moving. And they do have to be eligible, of course, to work in the United States. On average, economic impact here, for every $5,000 in incentive we would provide to incentivize a new worker or a worker to move to Shawnee County, we expect the benefit to be 10 times larger. We estimate this return on investment based on the economic impact of an average worker moving to the county making $60,000 per year. We've received approval from the Go Topeka Board to pursue the creation of the incentive program and additional guidance from the Executive Committee, and we'll continue to fine-tune the details of the program and expect to have individual conversations with each of you. Then, when we have the opportunity and we present our budget in December, we'll seek approval, and we'll be able to project a launch and promotion beginning in January 2020. And that is my report, and I would be happy to stand for questions.
Questions from the body? Seeing none, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am going to give you a quick update on EMBD. I'll try to be brief. EMBD has really been working hard to make sure that we touch the base of small businesses. And so you can see by the incentive increase that we're working hard to make sure that that support gets to the right people. This last quarter, we issued about $133,000 in incentives. That total benefit for the quarter was $198,000, meaning that is what it resulted in, $198,000. Total economic benefit over the life of the program was $1.4 million. And so that's money that they wouldn't have had had we not put it on the street, that businesses wouldn't have been able to expand if we hadn't put it on the street. So I just wanted to share with you that, and we'll continue to update you on this. We are really working hard to look at what the real needs are, and I got a call from someone the other day that said we needed to look at maybe some support around architectural designs, or, they had a number of good ideas, and so we'll be looking at those ideas too going into the next year to make sure that what we're doing for them is really what they need and not what we think they need. So this is your current incentive update. We do have a continuous pipeline. We might get about 6 or 8 calls a day. Remember, this is just one of the many programs that we offer, but we're very dedicated to this, and people are word of mouth. Everybody asks, why don't you advertise it? Can you imagine if we advertised it, how many people would take advantage of it? So everywhere I go, I talk about it. Everywhere a person that has taken advantage of the incentives go, they talk about it, because when they call in and say, I want to talk to you about the incentives, they say Joe or Jim or whomever told me about it. And so it's good. Word of mouth is really working as far as this is concerned. Our fast track program has really hit its capacity. This time around, we are continuously growing. We try to average about 12 to 15 individuals, and this time around we have about 21. I think there are 3 more that slipped in, so I'm going to say we have 24 individuals in this program. 6 of those individuals, though, will be in our THA Empowerment Center program, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a couple of minutes. We've issued 1 loan. We have a current pipeline of about 5. That 1 loan, we are really proud of it, and I'll tell you, if you see me after, I'll tell you who we issued it to, because you're probably tasting some of their brew or eating some of their flatbread. I'm just saying. Topeka, the THA Empowerment Center is Topeka Housing Authority Empowerment Center. We've entered into a collaboration with THA. What we want to do is we want to help people have a sustainable job or to start a business. And so our goal with this is to look at how we can help them enter into self-sufficiency by starting a business. And so 6 of the individuals in the Fast Track program are in this program as well. This program has a module of about 18 modules, and individuals will go through this 18-week program that includes internship. It includes internships, mentorships, all kinds of training, some hands-on, some exposure to things that they don't get. So we want these 6 businesses to be model businesses. We want them to show the rest of the residents that this dream can come true. So we have individuals that are going into things like their mom and pops, t-shirt businesses. Let me back up and say that we surveyed, we didn't just assume, we surveyed the residents to tell us what were the gaps in the community, what did they think they needed. And so they provided us with some insight as well. And so we continue to meet with them and talk a little bit about what they need and help them reach their plateau or their goal. So the timeline for this, the Empowerment Center is going to be located at, if you're familiar with the Aquaponics Center over at Pine Ridge, it's going to be located in there. And so the Housing Authority is tearing the property down and giving us that empty space to build these businesses in. And these businesses will provide services to the community, and it will help hopefully create jobs for residents in the community. So we're really, really proud of that. And then finally, I want to tell you a little bit about PTAC. PTAC is really exploding. It's doing a fantastic job. She has 67 new clients. She continues to host events that talks about how to do business with the federal government. She's put up about 229 counseling hours. And we always look at the return or the economic impact that she has. So for every dollar, every JEDO dollar that we have put forth, we get $6 for every dollar that JEDO invests, you get $6.24 return on your investment. And I don't think you can beat that in the stock market. So I'm just saying, she's doing a wonderful job. Hats off to Christy. We had, year-to-date, $2.8 million of her $12.8 million are Shawnee County businesses. So think about that. We're giving them the opportunity to bid on things they haven't bid on before. So that is it. I stand for questions.
Any questions for Glenda? Glenda today became my personal hero. We did 2 big events today. We've been working on growing the capacity of supplier diversity in the city of Topeka. We had 12 or 14 leaders?
15.
15 leaders that were all directors of procurement talking about supplier diversity at the Greater Topeka Partnership offices. And then we hosted a Women's Business Development Council meeting right before we came here, where we had almost 30 women that are all business owners in this area looking for ways to connect. So thank you.
So it's my pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Katrin.
Good evening. Okay. Good evening. As Matt mentioned, we had the great pleasure to announce the Topeka Plug and Play Partnership in August. And while this was a really great event, I want to take the opportunity tonight to thank the community in Topeka and Shawnee County for helping making this happen. When Stephen, Hutch, and Kelsey were here, they've been here 3 times now. They almost feel home. They feel very welcome, but they're also blown away by the passion, by the interest, and by the commitment that they see everywhere in the community. And that includes you JEDO members. So many of you have interacted with them, and they mentioned multiple times that this community is ready for plug and play. So since they're coming to town, and they're going to be part of our community, I thought I'd give you a little bit of a Plug and Play 101 introduction, so we're all ready when they come. So since 2006, Plug and Play has accelerated startups. They match them with corporate partners, and they invest in them. So just in 2018, it was over 1,100 startups that went through their accelerator programs. Their portfolio companies have raised $9 billion. This is since 2006. They work with close to 300 major corporate partners. They have tons of venture capitalists in their network. They work as a venture capital fund themselves, but they play with many funds in the ecosystem. So they're global. So that is really one of their big advantages, their global network that they bring to the table. Topeka is going to have exposure to their network in 15 countries. And I used to say 30 locations in 15 countries. It's now 35 plus. This is the latest that we got last week. They're growing quickly, and if you look at the locations that they have in the United States, it's their Silicon Valley headquarters. They have 2 accelerators in New York City. They have one in Cleveland with the Cleveland Clinic. They're in Northwest Arkansas, and then Topeka is going to be on this map shortly. So very selective within the United States, and I'm very proud that they're going to add Topeka to the list. Matt mentioned briefly about the industry verticals that they cover. We got connected with Plug and Play through a security benefit there in the InsurTech program. Just to give you an example, those are the 15 current verticals that they're active in. They have accelerators in cybersecurity, brand and retail, supply chain, travel, mobility is a big one, energy. So those are all verticals where they have deep industry expertise that they make available to any corporate partner and startup that enters their ecosystem. There was a void in the animal health sector, and I think it was a great opportunity to help each other. We bring in the expertise and the location in the animal health corridor, and they bring in their true expertise in accelerating and making startups successful, and then translating that also into success and innovation for their corporate members. How does that look exactly in Topeka? So every 6 months, they are going to have a cohort of 8 to 12 companies that go through an accelerator program that is 3 months in length. So they go through 3 months of sourcing, 3 months of accelerator, and then the cycle starts again. They start with 500 or more startups that they source for each program. Those 500 get reduced down to 50 to 100. Those get presented to the founding or anchor partners that facilitate that accelerator. 20 to 30 startups then get the opportunity to pitch their model, and 8 to 12 get selected. So as you see, this selection process is highly competitive, which also means Topeka is going to be hosting some of the most innovative and greatest and coolest companies globally. The 3 to 10 number for pilots per partner refers to the projects that corporate partners will embark on together with those startups to test and to test their product or service and to absorb them potentially into their operations. As we all know, startups are lean by definition, right? They don't want to hire tons of people. The real opportunity for economic impact here is for our local corporate partners to absorb those kind of innovative products and services as a client, as a co-investor, or as an acquirer, and then have the ability to scale and create even more jobs. So for Topeka and Shawnee County, of course that means we're attracting innovative startups and global corporations. We're attracting and retaining top talent. We get access to Silicon Valley-based venture capital, something that is scarce in the Midwest in general. We support local companies' need to innovate. And we get to establish Topeka in the heart of the animal health corridor, which was one of the mandates for my job as it was created with a lot of foresight. And it'll give us the opportunity to really leapfrog and lead the region in innovation. So we're no longer trailing behind. We're going to set the standard for a world-class accelerator program. Where do we go from here? So if you look at the milestones here, our partnership was announced in August. Later at the end of the month, we had the leading global industry event happening in Kansas City, the Animal Health Investment Forum, that we were present at, both the homecoming dinner and the forum itself. Plug and Play was there together with Hills, our partners, and were presented to key players in the industry, and also to the ecosystem in the region. As we're getting our partners, our corporate partners on board, we're gearing up for our first cohort program that is going to hopefully take place early 2020. We're shooting for January, but it could be early 2020. I don't want to promise too much. Under-promise, over-deliver. Yeah. So, to summarize, what's the opportunity? We are going to welcome 15 to 20 startups every year to Topeka. We're going to welcome top talent to Topeka. We give local businesses the opportunity to grow by providing services to those companies. And we're building a reputation of becoming a haven for entrepreneurs and innovators. So with this new situation, Plug and Play has committed to come here. We need to translate that opportunity into economic impact for Topeka and Shawnee County. That means we need to build infrastructure to support accelerators, startups, and entrepreneurs. We need to integrate those startups that come here and the talent into our community. We need to strengthen the ecosystem to provide the right resources at the right time. We need to expand programming to support our local entrepreneurs just the same. And we need to establish regional partnerships and expand our reach across the entire animal health corridor. And of course, we need to tell our story, our success story. And we're going to have the lightning rod that is attracting talent, entrepreneurs, and innovators right here in Topeka. So that's my Plug and Play 101. I stand for questions.
Any questions for Katrin? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Hi. So Forge has had over 127 events and meetings year to date. So not only are we super busy, but we also have a large variety. So everything from a Strengths Finder workshop to a putt-putt tournament. We've got VIP tours around the city, and we're having an upcoming Oktoberfest. So we like to keep our young talent busy, give them plenty to do, and also have a variety of events. One of our big goals for 2019 was to become more social and create that FOMO, or fear of missing out. And so we've done that this year by not only like posting pictures like you'll see up here of our beer yoga event at Norseman. So we're posting a lot more pictures, but we're also doing member spotlights and really shining light on our members, so people feel like they know them and they see them around and they see that face. Next. The other legs of Forge are our Washburn internship. We did a Washburn internship to kind of bridge the gap between campus and downtown Topeka. We did that by making solid first impressions. We had the Top City sign on campus for Welcome Week. We hosted a booth at their community engagement fair. We created custom Washburn Topeka flag stickers that are on everyone's planner when they received as a freshman. And we're in talks about getting the cheerleaders downtown before home football games. Our Topeka Youth Commission, newly formed, they just celebrated their 1 year, which we're really excited about. Talks began exactly 1 year ago in September. They went to the Mayor's Youth Summit with the mayor. They were really excited about that, really charged when they came back. From that, they are hosting a town hall at the end of this month about gun violence. They really want to have those hard conversations. no matter what side you are, they really want to hear from you. They want to speak to you. So they're really excited about that. And then they're also hosting their first ever grub crawl downtown. Trying to explain to them what a grub crawl was when they don't know what a pub crawl is was a little difficult. But they're really good group of kids, and they are really charged. The other community partners we've got with Forge, AE has offered up seats at their quarterly Inspire You series for Forge members to attend, to again just get to hear from speakers that they normally wouldn't get to attend. We hosted a recruiting event with security benefit this year where we had 75 people come out to hear about Forge. We offered soft openings for Spin Pizza and Brewbank, so Forge members got to get a sneak peek at those establishments before they opened to the public. We participated in the Stormont Vale Day in the Life of program, so some of our board members got to do that. And then we are talking with Chief Duke to finalize a firefighter for a day program for our members. The other leg would be our Top City Intern program. In 2019, we had 190 interns from 19 different companies and 12 different home states that were represented. So worst case scenario, we've got 12 different champions of Topeka and 12 different states. We hosted 3 different lunch and learns where they got to hear from local community leaders. We hosted a brew tour where they got to experience all of our breweries. We did a behind the scenes tour of the Topeka Zoo and a barbecue at the lake. I will stand for any questions.
Questions for Lindsay? Thank you very much.
Forgot I had one more slide. Okay, so normally in September, you would hear from us and see a first draft of our next year's budget. At this point in the year, because of our pivot with our strategy, moving from cash accounting to accrual basis, and some of the things going on with plug and play, we're just not ready to put numbers in front of you. We are working on our budget diligently, and we'll be inviting each of you to have individual meetings with us before the December meeting like we have in the past. So just know that that is coming, and when we have those meetings with you, we will have numbers on paper to be able to discuss and receive your feedback and go back and make some changes before we bring a budget in December. So that's all I have, and that concludes our quarterly report.
Thank you very much. At this point, we move on to item B of the non-action items. If the clerk would read.
B is a broadband project update.
Chair Jensen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to give you a brief overview of where we are at with the broadband initiative. To give you a quick history, we initially started with a charge of increasing access to broadband in Shawnee County and the city of Topeka. And our work through that, really 2 main challenges arose from that we attempted to overcome. Access to options within the city limits, and then limited access to any options in the county. As we started to work through those 2 issues, it became clear that the majority of the problem within the city limits is not necessarily access to options, it's what to do when you have the options, digital literacy. When you can get access to the internet, how do you use it, that sort of thing. In the county, obviously, there's just no physical infrastructure, or if there is some sort of infrastructure, it doesn't meet the definition of modern broadband. So we partnered with an industry expert, Tilson, as you know, and did an extensive look at various options. Their initial proposal back to this body, one which I resoundingly poo-pooed, as you will recall, was just simply not cost-effective. We, as a community, cannot afford to build, $100 million+ network to provide access to the internet. It's just not a cost-effective solution. So, having opened my big mouth, I was invited to join the team and put up or shut up. And I will reiterate what a class act these folks who have worked on the broadband team really are. They invited me in with open arms. Let me work with them, and we really took a deep dive and worked with both the incumbent providers. We've talked to some potential new providers. We looked at essentially all the technology options that were available. The reality is that there is just not a good technology option to provide something to the county without some sort of subsidy. There just isn't current technology that the private sector can use to make money when there's not enough people per square mile to afford the infrastructure costs. So with that, we sort of retooled our focus, as we've talked about, to deliver more of a policy solution. What can we do essentially to get government out of the way? How can we incentivize the private sector without spending money to come in and try and continue building access to broadband within our community? And we talked about what are the changes that the city and the county governments need to make in ordinances and policies in order to speed the process along, to increase access. At the city level and the county level, there are both teams working to resolve those issues in places where there are. For the most part, Tilson was fairly impressed with how our communities have worked on the project thus far, and that there's not serious roadblocks, as they have seen in other parts of the country. So with that, we're really interested in what this body feels we should do to go forward. We've essentially, once the policy changes are done, we've effectively delivered what we could within our existing budget. I've sat down with a number of the folks at the city level, and I would love to talk with the members of the county commission. I'm happy to come to a county commission meeting and have that conversation in public so we could sort of figure out where this group needs to go, what the future trajectory is. I will tell you that the library is going to take on much of the digital literacy work within the community, as that's part of their core mission anyway. So that sort of leaves us to plan the next phase of how we increase access to broadband in our community. Beyond that, really, we're going to begin the process of spinning down this team, as the majority of what we can deliver are these policy recommendations and changes that we would get implemented. We've delivered the broadband business assistance guide, or I shouldn't say we've delivered that will be ready to go once some of these policy changes are made. But essentially, that is effectively what our team is able to do given the constraints of technology and our available resources. I'll be reaching out to the county commission to see if there's a time that we could meet to sort of plan where we want to go from there, as well as work with some of the folks at the city. But at that point, with what we've got, that's essentially what we're able to deliver. So with that, I would stand for questions or comments.
Deputy Mayor?
What did you find what do other communities do that are in our same situation?
Subsidize. They spend money.
Everyone, I mean, that's it?
Well, the issue boils down to, if the private sector can't make money selling internet access, they're not going to do it. And in places where there's just physically no access to good broadband, I mean, other than the government building a network and operating it, that's the essentially solution. Now, it's a whole other matter where there is access to broadband and it's either too expensive or folks don't know how to access it or don't know how to use it. That's the digital literacy aspect, and that's a whole other matter that we're working on with the team at the library.
Got it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hiller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You lost me a little bit.
Okay.
And if you can just help me.
Sure.
Probably just me. So you said the only solutions you're seeing at this point are policy, yet on the city side, it's not even policy, it's just, we've got the system and all we need is literacy, digital literacy?
Well, in some cases, yes. Not in all cases, but for the most part within the city, the population is dense enough where the private sector can make money using private investment, and that's where streamlining the policies to make it easy for them to build makes sense. We don't necessarily need to subsidize their build-out costs because the population is dense enough where they could make money on their own. We just need to get out of their way. And in other parts of that, again, where there's access to broadband, and even there's some, like Cox and AT&T both have low-income programs, the uptake rate is somewhat low in those areas, in part because of the digital literacy aspect we found. Now, that's not a one-size-fits-all solution, and it's certainly not the end-all, be-all, but generally what we found is that.
Okay, and so there are policy things that you've identified as well. I mean, those of us on the city council have been through some of the authorizing and franchising agreements. Is there really anything we need to change that you identified specifically at this point?
There are a few things, and Doug Gerber is working on going through the list that Tilson provided, report was provided to both governing bodies, or both governments, I should say, not necessarily governing bodies yet, of recommendations that they have made based on their professional opinion working with communities throughout the United States.
Okay, and then for the county, it's again, at this point, just policy, and that's going to be a different set of policies, or the same?
Some of them overlap, but yes, and generally they tailored the policy recommendations for the county and the policy recommendations for the city, and that's essentially what we were able to deliver within our resources, are some policy recommendations for change.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cook?
Councilmember Jensen, you are always welcome at a Shawnee County Commission meeting. It might be helpful if we put maybe a discussion item on the
Absolutely.
agenda, have you come over, that way you would be able to address the 3 county commissioners. We'd have our county councilor, Jim Crowell, there, our IT director, Pat Oblander, there, and that way we could have a discussion between the county commission, the councilor, the IT director, and yourself on the broadband chair to try and see what we need to do. I know that we've already had discussions with Councilor Crowell about maybe, and Pat Oblander about maybe some change and clarifying some of our resolutions and code, and I think that we're well underway on that. But
Yes,
you're always
absolutely.
welcome.
And I would very much love that opportunity. I will tell you that Pat has been an integral part of our team, and he has been an incredible resource. So thank you for
Thank you.
allowing him to use that.
Hey, it seems like this is just a discussion item. This was just brought to our attention. I think that we have some action items that are following, the conversation with Mr. Gerber and the invitation to attend this meeting.
And as always, if anyone has any questions, I'm always happy to meet one-on-one and answer whatever questions you may have. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We move on to item C, if the clerk would read.
C is discussion on the Go Topeka contract.
So for this item, I want to just prime the body and just give you an idea of why we're having this conversation. Every year when we're getting close to the annual renewal of the contract, we end up finding ourselves in a conundrum. We're asking our economic development organization to continue bringing us wins like the ones that we have today, but at the same time, they're having to drop everything that they're doing so that they can start working on the contract and the competing clauses and all those things. Many years in the past, we had a culture in this organization, which was Go Topeka, now the Greater Topeka Partnership, that there was like this huge lack of trust. And there has been a lot of work done in this organization to ensure that our community feels like there is transparency in everything that is occurring. Commissioner Archer and I had the privilege of meeting with some of the board members of the organization, and we had a really crucial discussion. And that discussion circled around the fact that at one point in time, they were looked upon, Go Topeka was looked upon as a contractor, right? And they were a group that every few years we were trying to figure out whether we were going to keep them or whether we were not going to keep them. I think that the tide has changed significantly in our community. And we have been studying and looking at what other communities do and trying to figure out what is the best way for us to approach this. Some of the things that we know for a fact are this. Economic development organizations should not be transient. It took me a long time to understand that because there is a development of trust relationships. There is a development of business engagement. When site selectors come, they're looking forward to talking to the same person and engaging with that same individual. And that brings trust to the way that this community is being governed and the way that we are approaching economic development. Many communities, rather than having a contract, have either a section of their community be of their city or county, but in our case, we have 2 governing bodies together. They have it as part of their organization, and we don't have it that way. So what we do in essence is that we pass through our funds, but we really have a partnership. And when Commissioner Archer and I met with the board of Go Topeka, we talked about that. We are a partnership. As we are coming close to the year extension of entering the negotiation of this contract, what we wanted to do today was to have a conversation about how do we do this? I mean, and what we asked and tasked the board members was to come to us today with a presentation that would give us a few options for us to consider. Mindful, the one thing that we all agreed upon was the fact that no matter how we were to consider modifying or changing the language in our relationship, that we wanted to ensure that we still had the 6-month out clause in our contract, that if, there was some gross misconduct occurring or something were to occur, we have, as a community, the opportunity to break that contract at any point in time. So with that being said, I would like to invite to the podium Mr. Kurt Kuda and Mr. Dan Foltz to elaborate a little bit more on this discussion.
All right, thank you, and thanks for putting this on the agenda. Lift that up a little bit. Not bad timing to bring this forward for discussion, and really wonderful timing after a lot of the agenda items earlier tonight to have you discuss extending the contract. Just three maybe themes I want to put in front of you to think about as you go into the discussion item. And then Dan, I'm this year's present chair for Go Topeka, and Dan is the incoming chair, so he'll be the chair next year. And he's here to make sure I don't forget anything. He'll back clean up at the end. But three themes: momentum, continuity, and assurances. So momentum, we've heard that a lot. And most certainly with the report, this meeting and prior meetings, we all see the wonderful momentum that's happening, in part due to Go Topeka's efforts. Go Topeka is one of the main organizations under the partnership that is helping fulfill the Momentum 2022 plan. And there's a lot of wonderful things going on there, including traditional economic development that was reported on earlier, but also all the inclusive things that are going on in our community to bring wealth and prosperity to everybody. And so that momentum, we certainly all would, I think, agree we want to see that continue. Continuity. Now, the continuity piece is as we're getting going on all these, as well as past agreements with past companies, the mayor hit it right on the nail head. People are looking for continuity. They want to know who they're dealing with. They want that assurance that they'll be there, not only for the companies that we're dealing with now, but those that we're trying to attract and retain. That continuity is very important. And so now is a time to look at that contract to better ensure that we have that continuity. And the final word, assurance, I want to tie that back maybe to our staff. They want some assurances that this contract has features within it that they can plan on continuing the great work that they're doing. Not only the staff we have, but most certainly the staff we may want to attract, just like businesses. And I would maybe throw one more thing in on the assurances part. Our companies and several other ones here, we signed up for a 5-year pledge a couple of years ago that tied back to the Momentum 2022. And that private money that helps fund some of the programs as well as the public funds raised over $7 million this year, as you might recall. And all of us in that private sector also want the assurances that this great staff and organization will continue their work. And so, again, I appreciate you putting this on the agenda to talk, and I would ask for you to consider putting this on a near-term agenda, maybe as early as December for action. So with that, I'd like Dan to have a few comments as well.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with the JEDO board. The things that really strike me, and I'm really the kind of the newbie, been on the board 3 years and seen what magically wonderful things that collectively as partners we're doing. The whole thing about continuity is in partnership is just so important when you're bringing people to the community, because our staff, and I'll say this, is we got a lot of A players on the Go Topeka staff. We also have a lot of A players volunteering from their day jobs to come and guide that wonderful staff. And I think that's the partnership that we've all been looking for and working for, and it's really powerful. The rolling agreement that we discussed is really allowing some stability for everyone, including yourselves, to know that you also won't have to take an item that would take a big section of time, but always have the corrective ability with the 180-day out. So I just want to echo everything that Kurt said and appreciate the opportunity to reinforce those comments, but we would very much appreciate the move forward of this year. So thank you.
So just a final comment would be is what we discussed as a board and would ask for at least a starting point for your discussion as you might consider an extension on the contract is this started in January 1, 2018, so we're 2 years into the 3-year contract. The contract expires at the end of next year. What we would put out for consideration would be to extend that contract out 2 years at the end of this year, which would give a 3-year maximum window, and then have an annual rolling 1-year extension. So it would never be more than 3 years, never less than 2. And then again, the key point that you all need for your governance would be that 180-day out in the event that something would really go awry. But we stuck to the 3-year period because that's what the contract was when it was done at the start of 2018. So we just kind of stuck with that same time frame, but that allows for just a rolling contract, again with the out. So that's what we're putting out there for consideration. Okay?
Questions for the board? Councilwoman Hiller.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification at the end, because I wasn't quite sure what you wanted.
Right.
And if you could clarify then what you are envisioning the annual conversation would be for that contract extent. What would, if you've gotten that far, what are we talking about refreshing or negotiating each year?
We didn't get down to that. I would consider the annual report that we do at the end of the year as, I guess, that option period, if you will. Ideally, if we would really ask for it, would be a negative confirmation that it would just automatically roll over unless someone would take specific action. But at the end of every year, you guys approve the budget. That seems to be the logical point for it. And since the extension year would go from January 1 to December 31, I think that December meeting would be the catalyst, if there would be, I guess, a hard affirmation on it instead of a negative confirmation kind of feature to it.
I have just a couple of thoughts on that. When we did the interlocal agreement only, 2 years ago, I guess, we spent a lot of time working on that, and there was some language that we'd never included before, and a revisioning of what economic development was all about. And we have changed some things that we're doing. We've also tiptoed around the conversations when people have suggested doing something a little bit different. The plaza, for instance. With the prior money, it was new ground and new vision. I don't think any of us expect that our economic development vision or our program will be the same 8 years from now than it is today. And so I do think that the rolling 3-year contract makes a lot of sense. I've not been involved in these conversations before, but I think that annually to look at what our programming is at all, it's good to say, is this what we still want to do or not? And is there something else that we think is important that we would either morph program C, let's say, into, or something new that we want to do, and how would we do that? So I think it's important that there be an annual goals and objectives or work plan as part of that always. The review certainly, but we need to build in the opportunity for fresh approaches and fresh ideas, not just roll over. I recall even in the first year that we got a budget, we had envisioned some things differently, but the budget came back with exactly the same categories, and it was a little hard to find those changes that we had in there. And so I think we still need to refresh a budget and a work plan every year, even if it's a rolling
I don't think
year.
this would change, that would not change
Okay.
the need for reporting. No, I would make that clear. I mean, right now, under the 3-year contract, Go Topeka is responsible for reporting not only at the regular meetings, but also on an annual basis bring forward the budget for your approval, which includes, I guess, the business plan for the year.
That's what I'm,
This would not have any contemplation whatsoever that would be removed. It would just be an extension of that with those same responsibilities. And most certainly, as we go forward, and even with this whole plug-and-play opportunity, economic development's going to look different.
exactly.
And it's going to be very exciting. And so that continuity but also the ability to change year over year as our opportunities present themselves or as we make them would be part of that process.
So then just to wrap up, the clarification then is we would still have that annual process of reporting and a proposed program and budget The only thing you're suggesting is that instead of it being like a 3-year contract, that we're in year 1, year 2, year 3, that each year we just.
Right.
Okay.
No,
thank
no
you so much.
forfeiture of any governance or anything like that, zero.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
clarification. Sorry if it was just me. Thank you.
Additional discussion on this item from the body? We wanted to make sure that we allowed a presentation of the item, because a lot of times, there may be questions, like Councilwoman Hiller said, may come up, and we invite you to contact the board. I know that they are very welcome and open to just talk to anybody that has any questions with regards to how this will go down. But we wanted to make sure that if we were to bring this back in the month of December, when we have our next meeting, that we have had enough time for the body. That's 3 months for the body to just go ask questions and not feel like it's being brought as an item for the body to just vote on. We just felt that it was something delicate enough that we wanted to have good, open conversation about it. So, okay. We move on to item D, if the clerk would read.
D is discussion on the Coma Core considerations for JEDO and Go Topeka.
I didn't put this on the agenda. Commissioner Archer did. So I just want to make a comment that we go about our business taking all CORA and COMA into consideration. We're an extremely open, transparent organization. I think you guys understand that the only time that we're not is when we're under non-disclosure agreements, and if we were to ever decide to stay out into to be real open outside of non-disclosure agreements, then we wouldn't get to do economic development anymore. But we take CORA and COMA very, very seriously, and I just want you to know that we are as open, transparent, and as we can be. I mean, we'll go overboard to do it. So that is our commitment, and I did talk to Commissioner Archer about it. He did want to put on the agenda to just on occasion for us to have the conversation to make sure that we're really taking that very seriously, all of us as a group, but especially Go Topeka staff.
Thank you very much. So do we have somebody that's, in addition to this, anything else that anybody would like to discuss about COMA and CORA? Having an understanding? Okay. We now move on to the public comment section. First person to sign up to speak is Mr. Dan Foltz.
Based on what's been presented tonight, I'll pass.
Thank you. Mr. Kuda?
I'll follow Dan's lead.
Ms. Elvira Johnson?
Good evening. My name is Elvira Johnson, and I'm a member of Southern Hills Mennonite Church and of Topeka Jump. I realize that it'll be a few more months until you vote on the budget for 2020, but I know that conversations are going on about the Go Topeka budget now. We wanted to come before you and thank you for approving SOTO and NETO for 2019. Many people are using this program to get to work. People have been able to keep their jobs and have become reliable employees. With fewer transportation barriers, folks are less likely to have spotty attendance that could cost them their jobs. Folks are able to get home from work safely at night. Before SOTO and NETO, we sometimes heard stories about people who walked home at night because there was no working bus or because the bus didn't reach their workplace. We are so glad that this isn't as much of a problem now. SOTO and NETO both started out as pilot projects. A pilot project is defined as a small-scale, short-term experiment that helps an organization learn how a large-scale project might work in practice. So we start a pilot project to see if the program will be successful. And if the program is successful, we go into a full launch. Pilot programs are only discontinued if they are not successful. You voted unanimously to continue SOTO last December because the program had been successful. Topekans need access to existing jobs that are not on bus lines, and they also need access to the new companies you are incentivizing to move here, like Project Lightning that we just heard about. Since the program success has continued, we believe SOTO should continue as well. We encourage all of you to direct Go Topeka to keep funding SOTO and NETO for 2020.
Thank you for your comments. The next person signed up to speak is Ms. Carol Marple.
Thank you very much. I was a little worried I was going to break my 100% attendance record to these meetings, and heavens knows I don't want to miss any. I wanted to say that you will probably remember that Auburn was awarded a Quality of Life grant, and I'm very disappointed that Commissioner Archer is not here tonight because I wanted to invite him before he left office to find his way down to Auburn, because I wanted him to take a look at the monkey bars, as he called the exercise equipment that Auburn purchased with the grant. They are very well received within the community and being used quite well. I do not want to steal the City of Auburn's thunder because they are planning a ribbon cutting and all of you will be invited. But since Commissioner Archer's time was short, I did want to issue a special invitation for him to come down because I do believe he needed to look at the monkey bars. So thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you for your comments. Next person to speak, Liz Grace.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to share something with you. I've mentioned it in the past before. I just sort of just can't be waking up thinking about this, and someone can help me if I'm wrong, that the JEDO is about a county-wide sales tax. Now, often when I hear, and even when you listen, you know, I live in Topeka. I'm a tax-paying citizen of Topeka, which is Shawnee County. The economic development for Topeka, Shawnee County. But I just keep asking myself about this equity question. Is the economic development portion just for the city of Topeka? Is the programming and the things that are done, is it just for those who live inside the city of Topeka? Because people outside the county, they actually buy things and pay a sales tax. Should there not be a co-working space on Main Street, Silver Lake? Or should we not take some entrepreneurial classes outside into the county? Should young people not have access to tech programs or something at the Velma Parish Community Center outside the county, outside the city and inside the county? It seems to me that, you know, with, I am Top City, proud, you know, I live in Topeka, I am Topeka, but in this room here, except for Tuesday nights, in this meeting, I think we're talking about the county. I know that a lot of the organizations, a lot of it is branded Topeka. But as I said, when we were applying for the quality of place, if I walk so many blocks outside of downtown, there are people who don't know about JEDO, Go Topeka, Momentum 2022. I would wonder if you went to some of these places outside of the city and into the county and just walked on Main Street, if they would have even ever heard about you. I mean, they are buying stuff and paying sales tax. Is it all that they want is roads and bridges? Is that it? I don't know where the leadership is, but, you know, I ain't got no dog in this fight to beat, but an advocate should be a good advocate, not because of, you know, anything particular, just because it's the right thing to do. Topeka has a lot of cheerleaders for East Topeka, Noto, downtown. Who's the cheerleaders and where's the leadership for places that are outside of the city? Because they also pay into this $5 million sales tax. And although I am impressed with the inner city visits that we take outside, and we can probably glean and learn some good things, I have come to be more interested on inner county visits. And do the people in the county who are paying these sales tax even know you exist? Know what's available? Can they dream and submit some proposals or something in for some of these projects and different things? Will they be able to get a bus or transportation to come down here for some of the great events that's going to happen downtown, or go to Noto or walk along the riverfront? I don't know, this is just, I've been a part of that cheerleading group for Topeka and projects in Topeka and East Topeka. Not because East Topeka is anything to me, but you realize that Topeka has the best cheerleaders. They are here, they live here. They come here, they advocate, and they get. But I don't know. I just think that there may be some entrepreneurs living outside in the county and some young people and some other things, not just about getting people to jobs outside the county, but what do we do to get people from the county to jobs and training opportunities that are here? I don't know. I just had a question. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I just had to come and vent, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Before we adjourn, I did want to take a point of privilege and just address Commissioner Archer. So I'm kind of upset that he left, so I'm hoping that he will be able to take a look at this later on. But Commissioner Archer has been, very much like Matt has said, I met him when I was standing on that podium advocating for money for downtown redevelopment, and him being one of those voices that we really had to convince to make sure that he supported this process. I remember that in that process, I started running for office, and Commissioner Archer then became the commissioner. And in that process, it's been interesting that Lord and the city of Topeka and the county know that Commissioner Bob Archer and I do not agree 100% of the times. I would even dare to say that Commissioner Archer has provoked emotions in me, everything from the depths of joy to the depths of anger and despair. But here is the one thing that I can say. At the end of the meeting, Commissioner Archer and I became Bob and Michelle. And we would put aside all of the things that frustrated us about the issues. And we would remember, most importantly, that we were people, that we were human. That even though we drove each other, and we will drive each other insane for a long time, we will always be people first. And that is what makes this community amazing. The fact that we have people who can sit and lead from where they're at, with their beliefs, with their disagreements, and be able to verbalize them. And at the end of the day, whether it's a glass of wine, whether it's a beer, or in my case, a hug, we will always end the day and know that we are people. My life has been enriched by working alongside Bob Archer. He is a stand-up guy. He is a person that is an amazing father. And the legacy that he has in this community, whether we agree with him or not sometimes, is something that is to be respected. I am sad that this is going to be the last meeting that I will have with him, but I know that more than likely I will sit down with him and have coffee and continue disagreeing with him. Commissioner Archer, thank you for your service to this community. That being said, this is a reminder that the next meeting is going to be December 11th, 2019. Be on the lookout for the documents that are to come. That being said, this meeting is adjourned.